There are a lot of dangerous people in the world, but this guy is definitely not to be messed with. Steven Seagal is a renowned actor and martial arts master. A lot of people underestimate Steven and think he's old. He studied Aikido, Judo, Kendo and Karate. A controversial movie star, but let's just trace his entire journey as he's evolved and how he's grown in his career. Steven Seagal hasn't always been such a brutal match as a child. He was a fragile child in general. Suffered from asthma and didn't show any kind of overperformance. In other words, as a teenager, he was quite painful. He got into martial arts just because it was fashionable in this time. Steven Seagal's ended high school graduation and go in Japan. There he planned to teach English. However, almost immediately he found himself at the Myo-Murin martial arts, where he began to master the art of martial arts. Steven Seagal is fluent Aikido, Judo, Kendo, and Karate. When he was in Japan, he even opened his own Aikido dojo, which was a huge accomplishment for the actor. Later he returned to the United States and opened a the same dojo in America. Steven Seagal became a martial arts master and began traveling around the country with his seminars, where he demonstrated various Aikido techniques and self-defense techniques. Steven Seagal became so enamored with the martial arts. Luckily, the movie industry was developing in the same direction, and at the time it was the fashionable action movies of the 80s and 90s. Steven Seagal decided to try his hand there too. In 1987 he started work on his first movie called Above the Law. The movie was a success and continued the path for his subsequent movies such as Hard to Kill, Marked for Death and For Justice. It's worth noting, Aikido wasn't that popular at the time in the US or the world at large, so people who had seen movies starring Steven Seagal might have some idea what this martial art is about and its philosophy. Again, Steven Seagal was very realistic, showed all the techniques in the movie, and it looked very dignified indeed. And the powers that be never let him throw on the screen, and that created a very positive effect for Aikido in general. Steven Seagal also had a hand in the development of martial arts in general. Many famous martial artists have trained with Steven Seagal to surprise their opponents in the cage. Steven Seagal's students include Alexander Emelianenko, Anderson Silva, Leo Machida, and many other notable fighters, which undoubtedly proves that Steven Seagal is not just a Hollywood movie actor, but also possesses martial arts skills that can be very helpful to today's fighters. It's also worth noting that Steven Seagal is a very versatile man. He's a man of the world. He doesn't ascribe himself to any state, so he very often travels. Steven Seagal has a special love for Russia. He's been there many times and has met President Vladimir Putin. President Vladimir Putin, who is also a fighter and a very good one. As you may have realized that Steven Seagal is a tough guy himself and he has very cool friends. So he's definitely not to be messed with. In 2018, Steven Seagal was appointed by the Russian as Russia's special envoy to the United States. So this guy is very close to first persons of the state. A lot of people think that Steven Seagal is just a movie hero and doesn't know anything in life. He doesn't know how to do, especially since he's old enough, but it's worth noting that the man has really strong balls and a lot of life experience. So I don't recommend getting involved with Steven Seagal.